What is happening with all these women who seem to be up to no good? But for some reason, they think their families should aid and abet in their crimes. Kouri Richins, who's in jail awaiting the trial for the death of her husband, just got busted for the secret letters she was trying to get to her mother and her brother. It appears she's trying to get all their stories to be together, to have a straight. They're trying to get their stories so they all fit together. She wants to convince her mother, to convince her brother to testify that her dead husband was a drug addict, among other things. The secret letter was found in Kouri Richins' cell, hidden inside a book, handwritten in her handwriting. The letter outlines false testimony for her mom to get to her brother. In this letter, Kouri asks her mother to get her brother to testify at her trial that would incriminate her husband and make his death look like an accidental overdose. This 6-page handwritten letter to her mother is very incriminating. Prosecutors have asked the judge to restrict Kouri from further engaging in witness tampering by restricting her from contacting her mother and her brother. Kouri Richins is charged with aggravated murder, a first-degree felony. Charging documents say she administered a fatal dose of fentanyl to her husband, Kouri Richins. She was not charged until over a year after her husband's death. During that year, she wrote and published a children's book about dealing with grief. Kouri's judge denied her the opportunity for bail, ruling that there is substantial evidence to support the aggravated murder charge. Rather than taking a deep dive into the details of this case, which there are many incriminating facts that do not look good for Kouri, I'm astounded by the fact that she thinks she can lie her way out of this predicament and get out of jail. If her brother was to testify for her and lie for her, she's asking a lot. But that's not all she's asking her brother. Can you come, lie for me, make it look like my brother or my husband's a drug addict? Oh, and by the way, I know you have $1 million equity on your home. I need you to get me that as well. Bottom line. Kouri appears to be a master manipulator who's able to get her family to do her terrible bidding for her. Now, granted, we don't know if they would have done it. They didn't ever get the letter. But you can't help but think that she somehow believes they would, or she wouldn't have even asked. I can tell you this right now. My brothers would never ask this of me because they know I would turn it over. That's what I would do. So I'm just saying. She must have known that her mother and her brother were people who could be manipulated by her. That's my guess. What would you do? Would you help come up with a story for your loved one if you were asked to give false witness that might get them off from a murder trial? There are so many examples of women who are able to manipulate their families into criminal activities, or at least get them to help cast some doubts so that they can walk free. If Casey Anthony's mom did not give such a confusing testimony when her daughter was on trial, would she have been found not guilty? How about Lori Vallow, who talked her brother into her murderous plans. She also convinced her own mother and sister that she, Lori, was the victim rather than her husband, Charles. The similarities between Kouri and Lori go on and on. Kouri changed her husband's life insurance policy so she would get a lot of money when he died, just like Lori did for her husband, Charles. But in both cases, the husbands knew their wives were trying to kill them, so they secretly changed their life insurance policy benefactor to their own sister instead of their wives before their untimely murders. Now, neither of them have been found guilty of these murders, but they're both on trial. Lori's trial for Charles has not happened yet. It's still coming. And Kouri's is coming as well, but they are charged. Another person who has a similar MO is Jared Bridegan's ex-wife, Shanna Gardner Fernandez. She is in jail awaiting trial for the murder of her ex-husband, Jared Bridegan. Let me tell you what all three of these accused murderers had in common. They all had a rage and a hate for their spouses and wanted them dead. They also didn't care one bit about how that would affect their own children. They all three also assumed they could use their own charm and charisma to go on TV or a podcast and get the community to believe and feel sorry for them.
Last year, so it's March 4th was a 1-year anniversary for us, and he was 39. It completely took us all by shock.
He was still the father of my kids.
So I asked Shanna the question.
Did you have anything to do with Jared's murder?
No, I did not have anything to do with his murder.
It's been a long journey. There was a point in my life, there's a changing point in your life, right?
They're master manipulators. In fact, after the murder of Kouri's husband, she then went on to write a book about children mourning the loss of their father. No shame whatsoever. They all three appear to have sociopathic traits that their own mothers, at least initially, are willing to look past. Why on earth would they do that? What is the psychology behind looking past the criminal acts of their own daughters? Kouri tells her mother in the letter to take vague notes so she can remember the contents before you, quotes, walk the dog. Shanna's mother bought her a house across the country so she could get away from Florida, where the murder of her ex-husband, Jared Bridegan, took place. Her second husband was already in jail, as well as the person who they allegedly hired to murder her ex-husband. And in that case, there was a child in the car when Jared was murdered, and Shanna knew it. Lori's mother bought into the crazy story about how Alex and Lori had to kill Charles in self-defense, even though Charles had been alerting the family that Lori was planning to kill him. I think that's pretty suspicious. Let's talk about how sociopaths are able to manipulate family members into looking away from obvious criminal acts of their daughters, and in some cases even participating with them. Sociopaths are individuals with a personality disorder characterized by a lack of empathy, remorse, and a need for control. Sound familiar? They are often skilled manipulators who are able to take advantage of the people around them, and that includes their own family members. One way that sociopaths are able to manipulate their family members into criminal acts is by using emotional blackmail. They may threaten to harm themselves, their family, their pets, or who knows if their demands are not met. They may also use guilt tripping or gaslighting. Know anybody like that? To make their victims feel like they are responsible for the sociopath's actions. I can't help but think of Ruby Franke and the crazy manipulative behavior shown on all her YouTube posts. I have many videos detailing all of her apparent criminology, so make sure you check those out if you haven't seen them already. Another common tactic used by sociopaths is isolation. They may try to distance their victims from other friends and family members so they are more dependent on the sociopath. They can make it more difficult for the victim to seek help or support if they are being manipulated into committing crimes. Sociopaths use a lot of different techniques to control their victims. They may abuse their family members or threaten to harm them if they do not comply to their demands. This can create a climate of fear, intimidation, and making it difficult for the victim to say no. Not to mention, there's something that happens in your brain where you just want to believe it's not true. Not my daughter. You just don't want to believe it. So you just let your brain go to this la la land where I guess the grass is purple and it's not reality, but it's what you do to self-preserve, and you go along. You go along even though it's obvious that it can't be what they say it is. Here's an example of a true crime case where a sociopath manipulated their family members into criminal acts. I'm talking about David Turpin and Louise Turpin. They were arrested for terrible things against 13 children. Those children were kept in isolation in their home and were only allowed to leave once a year. Now imagine the kind of manipulation going on to make that happen. David and Louise Turpin used a variety of different manipulative tactics for their control. The Turpin case is a harrowing example of how sociopaths can manipulate their family members into criminal acts. I have a question that has been mulling around in my head for at least a year, and I would love to see what you think. So be sure to comment below and give me your opinion. Now, before I ask my question, I just want to say that I realize that I'm not saying any of these women are sociopaths, but what I'm saying is that they appear to have many obvious sociopathic tendencies. See, I'm covering my base there. So let me ask you my question. Why are so many females sociopaths? Do you have an idea? Do you have a guess? Do you have a thought? I would love to hear what you think. Let me tell you what I have uncovered when I took a deep dive into this very question. Is it possible that women are more likely to be able to mask their sociopathic traits because women are often expected to be more kind and caring than men? I don't know. I wonder if it's possible that sociopathic women may be able to use these stereotypes to their advantage, making it more difficult for people to see them for who they really are. Finally, is it possible that there are simply more female sociopaths than people even realize? I mean, just think about it. Psychopathy is a complex condition that is not always easy to diagnose. It is possible that some female sociopaths are simply never caught. I remember the judge at Lori Vallow's sentencing talking about how unusual it is that Lori would be a law-abiding citizen and then in her 50s start committing such terrible crimes. He also mentioned that he personally had not studied the case and in fact stayed away from any information about her except what was presented at trial so that she could have a fair trial. I was thinking to myself, I feel like there is evidence out there that she hasn't been a law-abiding citizen. And in fact, most likely she's been committing terrible crimes most, if not all, of her life. But she was so good at manipulating that she just had never been caught until now. Let's discuss some of the reasons why female sociopaths may be able to go undetected for so long. They are often charming and charismatic, and they're so good at manipulating people and making them feel comfortable. This can make it difficult for people to suspect that they are not who they seem to be. They are good at masking their emotions. Sociopaths are often able to hide their true feelings, although they sneak out at times when they're supposed to be sad and they can't help but smile. Yeah, Kouri does that. I think they all do. Even when they're feeling angry, frustrated, or threatened, this can make it difficult for people to tell that they're not being honest. This is why I like it when there's better cameras in courtrooms, because someone who's trying to hide a smile or laugh can dab their eyes and make it look like they're crying. But if you have a good camera angle, you can see they're not crying, they're smiling. These people are often very intelligent. Sociopaths are often good at planning and strategizing. This can make it difficult for people to outsmart them. Look at Kouri. She wanted to cause pain to her sister-in-law, who ended up with a life insurance policy from her brother. Sound like anyone else we know? Again, if you follow the Lori Vallow case, you see they just go hand in hand using the same playbook with their criminology. In Kouri's secret letter, she was asking her brother to leak some photos of her kids with her nieces and nephews to the media because she knew it would be hurtful to her sister-in-law that she hates. She didn't care one bit about the ramifications it would bring to her own children as long as she caused hurt to the person who she feels wronged her. Again, does this sound like anybody? Remember when Lori asked her friend Melanie to take random pictures of children and act like it was her son going to a Frozen movie to make it appear like he's still alive? They both seem to be using the same thought process. Doesn't matter. If I need to use my children to get what I want, I don't care about their feelings, about their lives. It's bad. Sociopaths are often very convincing, and often they're able to lie and deceive people without getting caught. In fact, they seem like they love it. Let me just go on camera and tell you all these lies, and I'll show how everyone will believe me because they've been believing me all my life. This can make it difficult for people to believe that they are capable of doing anything wrong. Look at that sweet woman on blah, blah, blah. Okay, sorry for my voice. What would happen in the case of Kouri Richins if the jail had not done this random search on Thursday? I mean, just think about it. If they didn't find those incriminating letters, would she have gotten away with murder? Or will these letters be the nail in the coffin for her? Well, time will tell. I'm going to be following this case very closely, so don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss anything from my true crime channel, A Life Without Parole, and I will see you again soon. See ya.